on edge, and the guy with gray hair was ready to clean his face right on the landing. Annie stopped him in time, stopping a possible mass brawl after the match. Afterwards, the coach of the Gamedev faculty team approached them and dragged away his participant. Finally, the guy said that in another game the operators beat their opponents with a score of 51 points, and the animation department would have to play with them. This figure scared both Batten and Annie a little, but they were still confident of victory. The next day in the evening, a team of camera operators appeared on the site. The cross-dresser noted that they looked scary, and they would have to work hard this evening. He also asked why the main character had not come yet, because the match was supposed to start soon. Immediately after this phrase, Batten appeared on the site and apologized for being late. To a million questions from Annie about where he was and what he was doing, the guy answered that he went to the workshop to draw. But there was no time to talk about it, and the guy had to warm up, because today they were playing against a strong team. The enemy team's coach pointed to a fat guy who had incredible accuracy and recommended that he simply not let him shoot. Since Batten could hit the hoop from anywhere on the court, he was surrounded by two people at once. The student decided to use the old tactics and throw the ball from below, but his opponents were no slouch either. Behind the two guys covering the main character, there was another one who actually ruined his tactics. He passed the ball to the other end of the court, and thus a goal was scored in favor of the operators. From the expression on Batten's face, one could understand that it was really cool, and the old scheme didn't work in this match. Since at least two players are constantly guarding him, it means that one of the animation department team always remains open. All you need to do is set the open player as a target and simply give him an accurate pass. In the next such situation, the main character noted that number 11 was open for a pass. Mentally, he thanked his partner for his trust and promised not to let him down at such a moment. Indeed, the newly changed tactics worked like a Swiss watch. Batten immediately realized that he needed to get the most out of this scheme in order to win the competition. Annie was shocked that the guy had learned to pass accurately, and he also had hope. During the match, the team's tactics did not change, and the animation department tried to even the score. The main character made accurate passes many times, and the other players threw balls into the hoop. Soon, the judge announced that the first 20 minutes was over, and the camera department won by 27 points. After the whistle, Batten was surrounded by players from his team and began to praise him. The crossdresser even burst into tears because he did not expect that this student would fit into the team so well. The student recommended not to cheer ahead of time, because the opponents might change tactics. And after them, the animation department team will have to change their strategy, and we must be prepared for this. At the cameraman's bench, a guy with green hair was indignant, because the coach said that the fat guy only knew how to throw into the basket. Then the coach said that everyone takes on an opponent, and one person blocks any attempts by the main character to pass. After the break, the match continued, and there were no more free players left to pass to. Then Batten decided to throw alone and immediately tried to do it. Everything went smoothly, and he scored a three-pointer, giving his team the lead. The fans were delighted, because the guy alone was able to beat such a strong team. Other spectators said that it was in vain that the operators changed tactics because two players had to hold the fat man. Someone said that nothing would help them, and he turned out to be right because the match ended with a score of 52 points in favor of the students of the animation department. For this victory, the system awarded the main character 0.1/10 of a champion's glory point, which he was very happy about. Annie suggested celebrating the victory and invited the whole team to dinner. But the guy politely refused, which is why the crossdresser had questions. It turns out that the first chapter of Dungeon Spirits is coming out today, and Batten asked everyone to like it. In the dorm, he took his laptop and called Sleepy Grandfather to ask if he was ready. Having received a positive response, the guy started broadcasting and said that he had just uploaded the first chapter. And to increase activity on the new title, he and Sleepy Grandfather have prepared prizes for viewers. To participate, all you had to do was add the title to your bookmarks, and after every 10,000, they would give away a small prize. After reaching 100,000, he promised to give away a big prize, and the first prize would be the first volume of the short story Dungeon Spirits. Before he could finish speaking, Batten saw that the number of bookmarks had already exceeded 10,000. The second prize will be a tankobon from his manga, The Adventures of a Community Lovelace, which he has been playing for several days now. The third prize will be 10 copies of the first to third volumes of the Dungeon Spirits novella. Well, in case all these books bore the audience, another prize was prepared. It was a handmade figurine of the main character from the Dungeon Spirits, also in 10 copies. The fifth prize will be a t-shirt with the inscription Spirits of the Dungeon, also for 10 spectators. And the sixth prize, according to the student, will be very intriguing and tempting. These are 5 female costumes for the beauty from the spirits of the dungeon, but they are still being sewn. Batten hopes that only the female spectators will get these costumes, but if the guys get them, they should still wear them for their health. Before the main character could finish talking about the 7th prize, he noticed that more than 200,000 people were watching. And since the number of bookmarks has passed the 100,000 mark, it's time for the big prize. The authors did not invent anything and decided that 10 people would receive $888. The student also recalled that Sleepy Grandfather said that if the number of bookmarks grows to 200,000, then he personally will raffle off $1,888 for 5. Such a statement excited the grandfather because most likely he had never said such a thing. He found a way out of the situation and told the audience that Batten would also give away $1,888 to 5 winners. This was a stab in the back for the main character, but he told the audience that it was so. And since he has such grateful viewers, then there is no need to be angry with his grandfather. In addition, the guy has everything figured out and is making good progress in completing the spender's task. The number of viewers and bookmarks grew rapidly, and the streamer did not understand where so many of them came from. But 10 minutes later, the number of viewers was consistently high, but bookmarks were not increasing. It was clear that everyone who could had already bookmarked the title, and an influx of fresh audience was needed. The guy thought that he needed to start drawing or playing the remaining gifts, but he couldn't decide. Suddenly, the number of viewers on the stream jumped sharply, which shocked the student. As it turned out, a very famous girl came to his stream under the nickname Pink Bunny. She was one of the most popular summer players of the 8th station. Batten himself only visited her streams a couple of times, but did not understand for what merit she gained so many viewers. He immediately thanked the bunny for the treasure, because it was the first time he had received such an expensive gift. Then the main character remembered that this was the same girl who supported him in capturing that pervert. He had no idea that he then met the Pink Bunny herself, although this was not surprising, because she always wears a mask. Suddenly, the monitor showed an incoming call from the Pink Bunny, which he immediately accepted. The guys simultaneously greeted their viewers, and the bunny began her story about how she had long wanted to fly to his stream, but there was no suitable reason. And as soon as I found out that the student was working on Dungeon Spirits, I immediately asked subscribers to go to his channel. In addition, she has already shared a story about his heroic act on streams. Her viewers fell in love with Batten in absentia, so she didn't have to advertise his channel for a long time. One link was enough. The Pink Bunny encouraged her subscribers to add the main character's manga to their bookmarks. She also invited the guy to see what the number of bookmarks was now. Seeing that the figure had exceeded 180,000, the student almost screamed. The streamer said that it was time for big prizes because it was time to reward her bunnies. The main character was only too happy, but first he had to pay off his debts. He held all the draws that he talked about at the beginning of the stream. All the winners were happy. For 200,000 bookmarks, the authors will give away $1,888 to 10 people. You just need to leave a comment. After giving out the gifts, the guy said that they had 3 more gifts that they kept secret. These were gifts personally from Sleepy Grandfather, so he will play them himself. Grandfather only said that these were very valuable gifts, including products from world brands. The first prize to be drawn was a whip from Louis Vuitton, which was the best gift for horse riding enthusiasts. In the chat, they started calling him a pervert, which made my grandfather a little angry because he called it a horsewhip. The second gift was candles from Cire Trudon, which can emit a bright aroma for 60 hours. And the last gift were bracelets for couples from Cartier, the finest handmade work, a real jewelry masterpiece. The Sleepy Grandfather repeated once again that these prizes are original products of top brands. To participate in this draw, you had to write a phrase that the grandfather himself had just dictated on the broadcast. The Pink Bunny, embarrassed to asked if the grandfather had taken off these bracelets. This question puzzled the guys because this was not in their script. The streamer realized that the situation needed to be resolved and said that girls were not particularly welcome on their stream. Therefore, she did not bother them and disconnected from the broadcast, taking the audience with her. At this time, the number of bookmarks on the Dungeon Spirits had already grown to 240,000, so Batten instructed his grandfather to do pranks. He himself began to look for the channel of this Pink Bunny to thank her. The channel was already at the very top, plus the main character sent her a lot of expensive donations. The girl also thanked the streamer, and her viewers noticed that she blushed. Reading the chat, it was clear that the student was misunderstood on this stream. In parallel with all these events, Sleepy Grandfather was already holding the last draw for today. It was the latest model iPhone. At the end of the stream, the first chapter had 272,000 bookmarks, which was considered a worthy result. A total of 620,000 have been collected on 2 titles, and the completion of the million bookmarks task is just around the corner. But so far, they had only given Batten about 30,000 in donations. It was still very far from reaching 1,000,000. It was necessary to come up with something to earn money on the side. Suddenly, a message came to the main character's phone from Kathleen, who did not understand what he had with the Pink Bunny. At first, the guy was shocked that the girl was also watching this stream. And then he realized that most likely she was jealous of him for the Pink Bunny. So Batten decided not to hesitate and video call Kathleen to ask directly. The girl replied that she was not jealous at all, and she was just curious to know what exactly happened there. According to the guy, there's nothing to tell. There's no point in taking it into your head. And he agreed to tell only on the condition that Kathleen admitted that she was jealous. On this note, the girl ended the call, which really scared the guy. Immediately, a message came to the phone, and the main character thought that everything was over between them. But this was a message about a student admitting to her jealousy. After that, the streamer told her the whole story of what happened that evening, and they wished each other good night. It seemed to Batten that their relationship had reached a new level, and he was already wondering what they would name their firstborn. The guy sat with a sweet smile on his face, and many female and male names flashed through his head. Catching himself at this thought, he slapped himself on the cheeks because there was no point in wasting himself on all sorts of nonsense. It is better to use the evening to do more useful things, such as manga. In addition, the main character was already on the verge of completing the illustrator task. After some time spent drawing, the long-awaited display indicating the completion of the task appeared in front of the student. He received plus 14 units in drawing skills and plus 4 units in imagination. And so I tried to randomly draw a couple of lines because the guy was already impatient to put this hand to work. And if you take the pen seriously, the eagle he had just drawn seemed to float between reality and the screen. All living creatures that Batten could only imagine turned out to be as realistic as possible. He didn't even understand how he managed to draw such expressive eyes for this girl. If there was a god of drawing in the universe, then today the main character has taken his place. And if you strain your imagination, you can draw very amazing and vivid images. The joy of leveling up a new skill was interrupted by Julia, who called Batten. According to her, a job appeared for the student. He had to draw a poster for a film. The guy was only interested in the price and the volume that needed to be completed. Julia replied that she needed to draw 10 options for 50,000, but she would have to pay the maximum. This meant that the streamer would receive 5,000 for each poster, which couldn't help but make him happy. The girl noted that her interlocutor was very excited and asked that he didn't have enough money to buy candy for his new girlfriend. He replied that this was not the case at all and thanked him for the order, already imagining how to complete a bunch of tasks. After all, if you sit and wait for donations, then the main character will not complete the spender's task soon. From this it was clear that it was necessary to earn money separately from manga. His thoughts were interrupted by a message from his sister transferring money to his account. The guy considered this an insult when he called her via video call. Mary argued that as soon as she heard that he really needed money, she immediately came to the rescue. Batten, in turn, asked if he and the witch were discussing anything else besides him, and he himself just wanted to find a part-time job. But his sister, hearing the words about a part-time job, covered her mouth with her hand and said that his whole family had money, and they would always help. In response to this, he only asked not to shove money at him, but to ask around in his circle if anyone needed to draw a poster for the film. She can, of course. Small film companies will be ready to entrust the main character to draw their poster. But Batten wanted Mary to recommend him to large companies, and he would guarantee the best quality on the market. The sister did not believe these words and asked him to send him his latest works. The guy sent only 3 photos, but when he saw them, the blonde was already in shock. The girl realized how high his level of drawing was and promised to catch him a big fish. Immediately after completion, she received a notification from Baton that the transfer was rejected. Such actions of her brother touched Mary, and she realized how grown up he had become. The main character looked at his watch and noted that the time was not quite late. He may well have time to fulfill Julia's order for 10 posters. After about an hour of drawing, all the work was ready, and Batten finally went to bed. The next day, in a cafe, he met a customer who was shocked by his speed of work. The guy didn't know what to answer, and for a second he realized that he was in a hurry with this. Jumping up from the table, Julia asked her brother to confess if he was some kind of cheater. She already thought that the student had become obsessed with something otherworldly, as if someone was drawing him with his hand. This excitement from the interlocutor drove the guy more and more into a dead end, but he found something to say. According to him, the main character was visited by inspiration, a muse, or something of this category. The witch realized that he was chosen by the gods of art, who guided his hand. She also added that Batten is as chosen as his mother. After these words, she began to stand up and say that they were geniuses, and Julia was an ordinary craftswoman. Already at the door, the girl said that for now she would transfer his work to the customer. When she finally left, the main character realized that in reality he was not a genius, but a cheater. But he had to die for these cheat codes. A couple of days later, Batten began receiving messages from different film companies on his phone, and then he realized that his sister was still useful. He decided to add everyone who wrote to him to increase his chances of getting his first order. After accepting applications, he received a lot of messages describing films for which posters were needed. Even without reading half of it, the streamer firmly decided that he would take on all the orders. Over the course of 3 days, the student's card received numerous transfers from different companies. At the end of the third day, it turned out that he had earned $355,000. Now Loaf can make concrete progress in completing the spender's task. But the main character did not know what he could spend such a large amount of money on. At that moment, he received news on his phone that a boy had fallen to his death on the rocks while crossing an old bridge on the way to school. Tragedy occurred in a mountain village where a child fell from a collapsing bridge because it was a short way to school. The news contained the contacts of the school director and a request to donate money for the construction of the bridge. Batten immediately called the indicated number and the school director answered the phone, who thanked the guy on behalf of all the teachers and students of the school. The student transferred $300,000 to the director, which helped him advance in the spender's task. As a reward for completing the second stage of the task, the main character received 100 points. The guy was glad that he didn't have to rack his brains, and heaven itself gave him an option. Suddenly, he received a message on his phone from an unknown number. It said that the director was looking for money for a bride price for his son. He could not be trusted. And if he really wants to help, he must come to the specified address to prevent the director. Batten was angry at the fact that someone could use his money for their own personal